Go. Welcome to the Love Fest. I'm Mila, your hostess with the mostest, and thanks for joining us for Doing Business with Love. Today I am featuring the beautiful Lana Wright. She is the badass life coach and founder of One Life, and she is truly an inspiration of leading your best life, starting from where you are. And she has a little special spot in my heart because she's just awesome. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind words. It's so nice.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I wanted to start off with sharing a little bit about your story, because I found you online, and I know that you're kind of just starting out, and I found you online, and I was amazed with your vulnerability and you sharing a bit of your story about your weight release journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then I'm going to show a couple of pictures in case people haven't seen what you've done.
Sure. So it was about 4 years ago. I was just in a place of pure misery. I hated where I was at. It was the highest weight I've ever been. And I was just constantly struggling with thinking I was good enough for anything. Like, I didn't feel good. I didn't look good. I just was not happy at all. And I remember the night very clearly. I've always been into sports, and I was powerlifting at the time. And my coach is also a nutritional coach. And I said, I need your help. I don't know what to do anymore, but I need your help. And so within that, we started working together, and it was amazing. I lost 70 pounds. I was feeling really good.
Wow.
And misery just turned into another form. It was, the scale was the dictator of my happiness. If I lost weight, I'd be happy. If I didn't, I'd be mad. I was just constantly chasing a new number on the scale. And I found myself starting to say no to friends and no to life, because losing weight was more important than actually living.
Wow.
So then I got to a point where I just started to self-sabotage myself. I no longer wanted to get the compliments people were giving me, because I didn't think I deserved them, because I was gaining weight, but they were still saying how good I looked. And I would just like self-sabotage, and I gained the weight back. But within that, I learned the biggest thing possible is that weight loss is mindset. Everything in life is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else helps, but if you don't change your mind, like, that's where your happiness comes from. It's not from a number on the scale. It's from within. So I didn't quite gain all the weight back, but I gained most of it back. But now I have a new lease on what happiness actually is, and it's not from a scale. So that's my message to the world.
Yeah.
I want everyone to know that, like, they can be happy right where they are right now.
Yes, and this was the message that really clicked in with me, because I have my own weight release journey, and I did another interview with Di Manuel, and I showed my picture, but I'm going to show my pictures again, and I've lost about 60 pounds myself, right? So, and I gained weight, I've lost it, I've gained weight, I've lost it. I've been on a few different turnarounds with this. Like, I mean, this is my first go at it. But, and really, honestly, the happiness does have to come from within your own heart, because even when I look at myself now, it's kind of like I know I'm 60 pounds less, but it's like I just feel better, and it's not mandatory for me on the scale. I just know that if I keep on trying to do a little bit better each day, that the weight will stay off. I know that I will get fitter. I know that as long as I commit to the process of it and enjoy the process, then, life will be better. So let's share some pictures here.
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay. Here we go. Let me know if you can see this. This is Lana's picture here, that I was like, oh my goodness, Lana, you're so very brave. And I couldn't believe it. And it came with that story of you've got to be happy with where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? it is amazing to me that you just went out and shared this. Like, thank you so much for being an inspiration. It's an inspiration. It really is, because you've got to start wherever you are, and you got to love yourself now. And you're a big speaker about loving yourself now, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's, oops, screen there. I stopped. Hold on. And then here I am. This is my weight story. Hold on. Which, here we go. This is me in 2014, and this is me at the end of 2014, and this is me like just a couple of weeks ago. So I've lost, like, I don't know, I started weighing myself, I was well over 200 pounds, and then I stopped looking at the scale. I was like, forget it, right? So I was like, no. And now everyone says, I find it funny because everyone says, oh, you look so fantastic and stuff. And, you know, honestly, I thought I looked pretty good even when I was over 200 pounds. You know? Like,
Yes.
I always thought that I was beautiful, like, you know,
Yeah.
and, like, what? And I didn't, and I don't actually feel like the weight has, is made me better or less or whatever. But I do know that I feel healthier with less weight.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do know. And my back doesn't hurt because I got injured and blah, 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 all of that stuff. So thank you for sharing that. And just the factor of, you know, really staying at a point where you got to love yourself now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's so important because, and you said it yourself, right? Like, you still feel like the same person. I thought I was beautiful then, but people would never say that. And then all of a sudden I lost weight and people started vocalizing like, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you've changed so much. And it's like, I am the exact same person I was 70 pounds ago, but literally just like smaller, a smaller version of self.
I know.
Why am I getting these compliments? And that like stuck with me. So it was that outer world that really started the self-sabotage. But if my inner world was stronger, that would have been better, right? That like self-love wasn't there at my lowest weight, just like it wasn't at my highest weight.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know that I was super depressed, and I had to actually, what I call it's decide and do. I had to decide
Mm-hmm.
to make a change, and today was the day, and I had to get moving that day.
Yeah.
And it takes a while. It takes momentum, right? So let's get into some questions here. Okay, so let's get into some questions. How do you infuse love into your business?
I struggled with showing up authentically since I started. And I realized the more I can show up as myself and just as the person I am, that's my way of infusing love, because naturally I'm like a personal cheerleader. I love to cheer people on. I love to hear people's goals. I love to see what they're doing. And I love to really make people feel good. And when I started, I pulled away from that because I was like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z for my business to be successful. So the more I step into being myself, the more I show up in love, because that's just who I am as a person.
And that's great. You know, like that is fantastic, because I always say, be more you than you've ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, because then people will know if they like you or not. Either they love you and they take you, or they don't. And then, you know what, those people that don't love you just for what you are, they're not your ideal clients anyways. Or they don't need to hear your message, or they're just not there yet. Everyone's on different vibrational levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why and how did you start your business?
Why and how? Okay, so actually this journey started when I was mid-weight loss, and once I started to realize that mindset was everything.
Mm-hmm.
I started Googling what I was good at. Like, I was like, I'm really good at motivating people. And life coach kept coming up, and I hadn't heard of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to try this out. So I ended up going to school for a year, but that's what led me to where I am, because it was a way for me to motivate and use all my great skills to start this business, to start this mindset journey. I've pivoted a million times, and I keep coming back to love yourself. Love yourself first, and the rest will fall into place. Like, make yourself a priority, and everything else will fall into place. And I've noticed that people struggle with that. So my why is just like growing and growing as my business grows, because it's important for me to show up and let other people know, hey, if you make yourself a priority, everything will be good.
It's absolute truth. I 111% agree with you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's excellent. That's a good story. You Google searched your way to being a life coach.
I did. What am I good at? What are my skills? Yeah,
That's excellent tip, actually. FYI, if you're watching and you're struggling with what to do with your life, then that's a really good tip. Hot tip right there. Like,
yeah.
start
Super hot tip.
searching
Google
what you're good at, right? Yeah. Okay. So how has following your intuition in your business helped or hindered you? Or is it both? Or give us an example of one or the other.
Okay, so it has been both. And when I first started, like I said earlier, I had pivoted a lot. I kept going in different directions and I kept coming back to this place of weight loss and self-love. And so it was when I wasn't listening to my intuition and I started listening to what my inner mean girl or my ego, that I would start to derail because it was always, who am I to talk about health when I'm not healthy? So that voice always kept coming to my head. So I would pivot and I'd be like, okay, let's talk about this instead. Let's coach these people instead. But it never felt good. And when I really would listen to my intuition, it's like, you need to tell your story. You need to tell people to change their mindset. You could help people stop yo-yo dieting if you actually show up and say like, hey, try mindset this time. You've tried everything else. Try your mindset. So my intuition has helped. I would say my intuition has always helped. It was my inner mean girl. It's when I stopped listening to my intuition that I'm derailed.
That dang ego.
Yeah.
So I actually I have a life mission book, and I have 11 different areas of life, and the basis is health and fitness. Then the next is mindset and beliefs, because I believe when you have your health, everything stems from that when you're feeling good, and then your mindset and beliefs are like, it's all really, really close. That's for me the pillars of foundation of my success, because when you have your mindset on track, you actually put things that are really important as a priority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Now, next question is, why is life coaching so important for entrepreneurs? Like, a lot of entrepreneurs will say, oh yeah, I need a business coach. But why is life coaching important?
I've actually seen this happen to myself and a lot of other people. So when you take a business coach, you're focusing so much on your business, you start to forget about self. So when you start bringing a life coach on, that's when you start to implement that mindset around, wait, if I'm not healthy or if I'm not at my peak performance, my business is going to suffer. So you can be implementing all these tools into your business that you do with your business coach. But if you're not feeling 100% or if you're not feeling your optimal, then you're going to start to fall away and pull away from your business as well. So I actually believe they go hand in hand to help you get to that optimal state of self so you can get to an optimal state of business.
That's a nice way to put it, for sure. I really, really believe in that myself. Like, it is so important to be balanced on all sides. We need our time off. We need our exercise time. We need to focus on finances. We need to focus on our business. We need to do all of the above, and we need help from many different places, right? And staying on track in life, super duper important.
Absolutely. And you're so right. Like, there's so many different areas that we need to like focus on in our life. And I've seen it a lot with people who I work with. They start a business and it's fantastic and they let their body go. So then they start to gain weight, but their business is doing well, but then they don't feel good. Then their business suffers. So it's so important to bring those people on because we can't do everything ourselves. No. And have that accountability and that support and that love surrounding you so you can rise to the best version of yourself.
Okay, and now I have a question for you because you brought up the A word, the accountability word. How important do you think accountability is in somebody's life?
I guess it depends on the person, but I run on accountability. So when I set goals, I make them public because when people are like, hey, how's that going for you? Like, most people who follow my Instagram know my goal is to move to New York. And that's just a part of accountability for me, is like, I always remember that dream, and people will always remind me about, like, hey, how's New York coming along? So
Yeah.
I think accountability is huge, but I guess it just depends on the person. Like, if you know that you work better under accountability, get that accountability. Like, why wait?
Yeah, no, I am a massive believer in accountability, and I declared I declared 31 goals in my Facebook group. I stood up at the beginning of January and I declared 31 goals that I was going to complete this year, and they're all right there. And I read them every morning. And I also, on my YouTube, I do a weekly evaluation because I always like to check in and see how far I've come
Right.
on the goals, right? So I not only have accountability by telling people this is what I'm doing, and it's kind of scary because you're putting yourself out there, but at the same time, like, if you don't do that, you set a goal, you set a massive goal, and you kind of think about it, and maybe you're not working towards it if nobody's watching.
Mm-hmm. And there's that beauty and vulnerability, like just showing up and being like, this is what I want. And regardless, you're going to have support. Like, if you didn't make that goal, you have support. And if you did make the goal, then you have that massive celebration
Yeah.
around it. So vulnerability is, like, as you can tell, I love vulnerability. You get a little bit of a vulnerability hangover when you show up like that, but it's an amazing feeling to have the support show up following being vulnerable, because so many people can relate.
Yeah. That's funny that you mentioned a vulnerability hangover. That's really funny because, like, even just on my last on Sundays, I do my weekly evaluation, and I didn't complete all of my goals, and I had to say, well, I didn't do two of the things that I said I was going to do this week, and there was a good reason for it. I was doing interviews, I was on camera a lot, I whatever, but I didn't make it. But you know what? I still showed up on my YouTube channel 5 days out of 7. When I said I was going to do 7, I was 7. So that's 5 more videos than I usually do. So actually, I'm proud of myself, and that's a celebration in itself. So I'm winning no matter what. But I was like, oh, I didn't make it all, right? And I have to admit it to you guys. So
I love that. I love that you were like, well, I didn't quite make it, but you're like 5 videos ahead of where you were a while ago, like,
yeah, like,
you're
I
already
mean,
there.
just get out there and share, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing.
okay, so I'd love you to give us a couple of tips in relation to building your best life, and where do you kind of get started? Where do you get started when you kind of decide that, you know what, I need some help, I need to get myself together? What are some tips? Where do you start?
My best advice for this is, or tricks, I want to say that word together, is starting to trust yourself. When you have that thought, like, I need to change, I need something, trust that and start asking yourself questions. What do I need to change? Why do I need to change it? But that first initial, like, instinct you have of I need something, trust that. That's like the basis of everything. And once you start to trust yourself, then you can make yourself a priority. And I love this. I don't have a quarter and I wish I did, but oftentimes women will say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, I know.
So
They
I
do
get them to
say
take a
that. Yeah.
quarter and put heads is, I'm just going to use food as a reference, pizza. Tails is tacos. And it's like, I don't know what I want for supper. Flip it. While that quarter's in the air, you're going to make a decision. Before it even lands and hits the ground, you'll be like, oh, I actually just wanted tacos. And then it'll land and it'll say pizza, and you'll be like, oh, no. But when it's in the air, and just trust that. Trust whatever's in the air for you. So if it's like, do I want to work out or do I want to run and lift weights? Flip a quarter. And you'll know what you want, but you have to start trusting yourself. That's my biggest trick and tip, is that quarter challenge is like a game changer.
That's a good little challenge there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very decisive because I've actually made myself become decisive, and it's actually a practice.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn to be decisive because we've had so much preconditioning in our lives that, oh, and especially as women, we've been told, from when we're growing up, is be quiet. You're not meant to be seen, blah, 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 all that BS that encompasses all of this stuff. And then when we grow up into women, it's like we're afraid to shout it out from the mountaintop of what's actually really going on, right? So, but I believe that making decisions quickly is a success. And then you just deal with the repercussions of what it is, right?
Yeah.
So because, you just deal with the repercussions and start small with like things like, what is it going to be for dinner? Or do I want to run or do I want to lift weights? And by the way, both are fantastic for you. So you're not going to go wrong on either one of them. Do I want to do yoga or do I want to do a CrossFit? Doesn't matter, right?
As long as you take that first step. Yeah, it's totally like learning to trust that voice within you that gives you that idea and then running on that idea until you get another one, until it's like, oh, let's try this now. Okay. And if it doesn't, this is important too. If it doesn't feel good, you don't have to do it. Like if you do CrossFit or if you do running and it doesn't feel good, try something new.
Yeah, you can change your mind. For me, I love running. And this is what I'm just going to mention this as well. How do you feel about setting those long-term goals? One of my goals is to run a half marathon. So I've been training for it. And I run and I run and I run because I got to get the kilometers in and the miles in on my feet so that I don't like die in the half marathon. But what do you suggest for people that, let's say, have 70 pounds to lose, or when you have a goal that's kind of big, such as a half marathon or losing 50 or 70 pounds or whatever, how do you get from that end result back to where you are right this second?
I love this question because I love goals so much. So your big goal, I like to consider your iceberg. That is an iceberg. So there's a lot above the water that will have to change. Like if you're running, you're going to have to put in a certain amount of kilometers. If you're dieting, you're going to have to put in like some work with food and maybe some exercise. But then there's all those things under the water, like your mindset that's going to come up, or that self-sabotaging pattern that you thought you got rid of. So I like to focus first on what we can control, what you can control. So what you know now. So let's bring it back to the beginning. We know exactly where we are. We know exactly where we want to be. And so let's start breaking it down into ice cubes. So we have our iceberg, and let's make ice cubes. What's our first best move? Or if you can't think that way, I work backwards. Okay, so in a year you want to lose 70 pounds. In a year you want to run a half marathon. Where do you have to be 6 months from now? Where do you have to be 3 months from now? And work backwards in that way. And then as those other things below the water come up, then you're aware of them. Then you know that, wait, there's stuff that will come up, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. This is what I'm going to do. Or I'm just being aware of it is huge. Like, oh, wait, I'm self-sabotaging myself right now. I can deal with this because I have the right tools to do that.
I like to actually write down what is possible things that could get in my way.
Yes.
So that I know when they do come up, that this is what it is. And when I was in a clear mindset, I've written them out and I've done what I can do instead. Right. So but I'm a massive goal setter. Like I am massive goal setter. Like everyone that knows me knows that I am massive goal setter. I am. So, okay. Thanks so much for sharing that. So now we're going to wrap this up, and I want to say, how can everybody find you?
Okay, best way to find me is Facebook. I am the Badass Life Coach on Facebook, or in my Facebook group, One Life. Those are the best ways to find me. And my name, I guess, will be on here. I'm Lana Wright on Instagram. So any social media, I am all over. So you can find me there.
Awesome. And do you have a free gift for us?
I do. I decided that I want to do a workbook for you guys. So I have this beautiful workbook on the inner mean girl, which is your ego, which is one of my first steps towards mindset, is differentiating between your ego, the voice that wants to keep you in your comfort zone, and the voice that wants you to expand and grow, and that intuition we talked about when trusting yourself. So I'm going to give you that workbook to link up for whoever would like it.
Awesome. Well, that sounds just fantastic. And I want to thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for doing business with love. I really appreciate your time. It's been a great interview, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was fantastic.
Awesome. And then make sure you grab your workbook, everybody, and we'll see you on the next interview.